Welcome to Performance Driven Living, the podcast where we question everything. We don't tiptoe around tough topics, we walk right into them. Not to provoke, but to get closer to what's real. You might not agree with everything you hear, and that's okay. The show isn't about being right, it's about being real. These conversations are meant to stretch your thinking, challenge assumptions, and spark something deeper. The views shared are those of our guests and may not reflect those of the host or team. And while we dive deep into health, performance, and transformation, this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor before making changes to your health or lifestyle. Take what lands, leave what doesn't. But whatever you do, don't stop questioning.
We're here at the Performance Driven Living podcast. I'm your host, Mark Young, and we are joined today by a good friend and incredible soul. Her name is Dr. Shivani Gupta. And Shivani, I always say this when everybody comes in, and that is our team puts together these introductions, and it doesn't matter what I could make up about you. Like, they write these intros that are much better than I would ever do. So you're going to have to forgive me because I always read them.
Sure.
Like, if that's good. And it says, I'm joined by a woman who blends the ancient with the cutting edge, Shivani Gupta. She's an Ayurvedic practitioner, entrepreneur, and founder of Fusionary Formulas. Her work bridges traditional Indian wisdom and modern wellness, especially when it comes to inflammation and the power of turmeric. Shivani, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate that. And I love these intros. Like they like always have it so perfectly spelled out, and I would like clumsy my way through it. Right?
For sure. Me too.
Well, Shivani, here on Performance Driven Living, I always say that my goal here is to always learn something, but I'll say that, so anybody who listens knows this, and that is I'm always questioning everything. Like, I was that kid.
Yeah.
I was the kid who disassembled things just to see how it was put together, and life has been that way for me. Because I disassemble everything. So in my learning, usually it's a reverse engineering.
Okay.
And I am absolutely fascinated by the practice of Ayurveda. And I don't know, and nobody actually uses the word Ayurveda the way that Shivani does, because it's always perfectly pronounced.
Yeah.
And it makes me laugh. It's like, the person who happens to speak French who is always like, oh, well, we were out walking on the Champs-Élysées, right? It's like this perfect pronunciation, right? So your pronunciation of Ayurveda always impresses me. What is Ayurveda? Like, tell me what this is, because I hear this word a lot, particularly in the health space,
Sure.
And it sounds very woo-woo to me.
Sure.
And I only kind of understand it. So can you kind of start me off there?
For sure. Ayurveda 101, right?
Perfect. That's exactly what I need.
So Ayurveda is basically an ancient wisdom. It's a science. And Ayurveda means the science of life. So it's one of the ancient scriptures from India that outlined for us how we should live for longevity and for prevention.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a blueprint, basically, of how to live, when to wake up, when to eat, when to sleep, all these things that nowadays in wellness and longevity, we're calling circadian clock and circadian rhythm and all these things. Ayurveda had a guide for us on, this is your constitution. Understand your individual constitution based on the elements. We talked about your circadian clock customized to your primary elements. We talked about your gut health being the center of all health. So it's been amazing that in recent decades, everyone's like microbiome and gut-brain axis. We're like, yep, 5,000 years we've been saying that. But thank you for proving it with modern science. That makes it easier for us to say what we're going to say. So Ayurveda always said that gut health is the center of your immune system, your brain, your mood. Every single thing you want in life starts in the gut.
Yeah.
Then we talk a lot about self-care rituals and how these self-care rituals that you can do every day are detoxing and supporting of your longevity. Ayurveda is a sister science to yoga. And so whenever we talk about yoga and all that wisdom, and you want to take that yoga feeling off the mat, that is your Ayurveda lifestyle. And then finally, I pull a lot from the super spices and super herbs, because when I was sitting there in Ayurveda school studying for my master's, and they taught everything, I was like, okay, so you're going to tell me to do yoga, self-care, live in a rhythm, customize to my dosha, optimize my gut, eat an amazing special yogic diet. All that's awesome. But then you're saying these herbs are like superfoods? That's amazing, because I have always come from a family of diabetes. How am I going to win at my health? These tools seem pretty amazing. So that's why I immediately pulled turmeric and spices. But I love teaching everything else because you need to live the Ayurveda lifestyle. You can't just use the herbs.
Well, so first of all, thank you for unpacking Ayurveda for me.
Sure.
Simply because, like, I think I actually thought this was I didn't realize you used the word lifestyle, but this was the constitution. And I loved that because I didn't understand that. So thank you for teaching that to me. But I want to go one step further into that. And that is, we're talking about ancient wisdom. And a topic that's come up in my life a lot lately has been this idea that I've used the phrase unlearning a tremendous amount in the season of my life.
Yeah.
And part of that unlearning is the fact that, like, modern science, if I can use that phrase, because I think it's all sort of weird, but, you know, current science, current discoveries, I'm laughing because we're calling them breakthroughs. And in fact, so much of what we're seeing today in science, especially health related science, but not just that, but even other types of sciences.
Sure.
It's ancient wisdom.
Right.
Like, a topic came up. I was talking to somebody the other day about, even, and I know that you're a vegetarian.
Yep.
I personally eat very carnivores, right? So opposite ends of this spectrum.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's very, topical for me right now is this idea of humane treatment of animals.
Sure.
And, you know, prior to them being slaughtered for meat.
Yeah.
And the idea that cellular trauma is real, that animals that are killed in horrific environments store cellular trauma that we end up eating. And it's like, and I was having this conversation. Do you know who Dr. Chris Motley is?
Yeah.
Love him.
Yeah.
And he and I actually were having this conversation. It's like, well, that's great. Like, I don't have a problem or any kind of issue with eating animals, obviously, which that's not my issue. But I definitely wouldn't want them treated inhumanely until then. And it's not just because I don't want to hurt anything, but at the same time, it's unhealthy.
Correct.
Like, physically, it's unhealthy to do that. And it immediately made me think back, like, well, the Jewish culture of kosher laws, or the Muslim laws of halal. And it was like, this isn't new information, guys. Like, all of a sudden we're like, oh, but cortisol levels are raised in animals if they're killed in stressful situations, and that passes along to the person who eats this meat. And like,
sure.
Or maybe that was 5,000 years old. Like, this isn't new information.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful to watch the returning to the original wisdom. You see that a lot in the US right now, like homesteading. Let's pickle our foods and put it in jars. I'm kind of watching all of them online. I have to admit, I'm not doing any of it. But as I watch them, like, build cellars full of pickled foods, I'm like, this was the original lifestyle we all had. And we've gotten so far away from it that it is so problematic. And I think a lot about what you're talking about, because although I'm vegetarian, I just opened it up for my children to start eating meat. And so I really, like, flinch every time something's going in a way I don't imagine. For example, they'll throw things away. Like, they won't eat the chicken that's cooked for them. And I look at them like, an animal died for you. I bought that for this house for you to eat, and you're going to throw it in the trash? And it really triggers, like, I'm a Hindu who believes that, and Hindu and Buddhist who believes every life we impact matters on every level. Whether I rip a weed out to the dairy and the cows, if you're talking about cortisol, I really think a lot about factory farmed dairy in the United States.
Oh, no. You just took it. That's even deeper than I was even paying attention to. But you're right. Traumatized cows are going to be putting out milk that is even unhealthy.
Exactly. And then we get to the level of the animal itself. So really, I mean, people have pointed this out about vegetarians, like, to clear a piece of land for growing a vegetable, you're also going to cause harm to life. So I'm very balanced in my view. We're going to cause a lot of harm no matter what we do. But how can we be conscious? How can we be intentional? And I think in the United States, it's actually really hard. It's why when I go abroad, I'm always fascinated. If I go to Italy, I'm like, how are you guys doing? How do you keep your cows happy? How do you kill animals consciously for your consumption? Like, what is your approach?
Well, and so I had a similar conversation recently with Richard Drucker. Do you know who he is?
I've heard.
So he runs Drucker Labs, and they actually do carbon binding technology to remineralize soil. Like, his products are all about the great products, Drucker Labs, and they actually do fulvic and humic acids for human consumption.
Okay.
But then they also have technology that actually remineralizes soil, that actually uses carbon bonding to restore soil to its mineralized state. But anyways, I'd had a conversation with him. And it was kind of a weird conversation because we're talking about like, well, the produce that you eat. I mean, you're a vegetarian. It's like, well, where do you actually get good produce nowadays? Because if it's US grown, it's grown in soil that's been overcropped.
Yeah.
So mineral depletion all over the place with soil. So you're not even getting what you really need in that.
Correct.
And then I was like, well, wait a minute. So but you are what you eat, but you are what you eats.
Right.
Like, which means even if I'm eating beef, I'm eating beef that has been feeding on mineral depleted foods. Because even my vegetarian cow meal
it's lacking.
Was lacking. Like the cow's food was lacking, which means the cow is lacking, which means I'm not getting what I want even through the cow. And it's like, which is like a whole nother level of conversation, right? And you just brought up dairy, which just
I think a lot about anything that I'm going to consume. I'm so dialed in on food and diet and these things. It's been my life to teach Ayurveda for 20 years. And even I get so frustrated with my blood work because it shows up in my blood work that although I'm living this amazing life, the food I'm choosing to eat isn't giving my body what it needs. Because of the mineral depletion in the land. And so to me, that just means we have to work a little harder. We have to find those farms in our local areas. We have to partner with those farms. I'm committed to finding eggs locally and buying them direct, not from my Instacart Sprouts orders that I normally do. Like these shifts in awareness and consciousness into food sourcing and everything sourcing, skincare, everything that goes on us has to be an awareness and a shift, or we're always going to be chasing our tail. And then we're always going to be over in biohacking saying, why do I need more and more? And just consuming with this voracious hunger when, like what you just said, it's the land underneath that's lacking and everything upstream from there is affected. And so we have to get really down into that level of where am I sourcing from? What am I putting in my body? Am I even aware when I'm putting it in my body? Because in Ayurveda, we say if you're in motion and you're eating, you're not going to digest that.
I just saw a social media post. I want to say it was this morning. That I want to say I want to give credit where credit is due. I believe it was Josh Axe.
Okay.
And he said, medicine is not about adding a solution. It's about removing.
I saw that.
Did you see it? It was about removing a toxin. Like when we're trying to heal from something, we have a tendency to find out what should I take.
Right.
And it was a mindset shift for me, almost like that's good. Like this is not about what do I need to add in, but what do I need to remove? Like there's something that's causing a problem. You should get rid of what's causing the problem, not try to add a solution.
Correct. And that's what I think what we're doing a lot of in longevity and biohacking, which I'm into everything. I buy a lot of it. I'm carrying my mineral water. I do those things. But I also am very conscious that in Ayurveda, we say the biggest problem we have is this accumulation of something called ama or toxins. So if you can imagine this toxin residue that's collected all on your insides from a lot of our behaviors. I laugh with my kids. I was a Dr. Pepper drinking, big red gum chewing, fast food eating Taco Bell girl in college. That's who I was. Even though now I'm like, it's all organic and it's all healthy. I know where I came from. That's what we all did in the 80s and then the early 90s probably. And so really now I think about it as what are my daily rituals to clear and detox? What are my seasonal circadian practices to clear and detox? How do I invest in sleep so it's so deep, so profound that it allows my brain to clear? How am I living according to my Ayurvedic clock and how am I customizing it for my individual dosha? So for example, it's obvious you're a Pitta. We teach about these things.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So I may be insulted here. You got to unpack it.
You're not insulted. I'm a Pitta. So we have 3 doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. These are 3 different body types that exist. So I always do a quiz on everyone or have them take that quiz. And then I say, you're a Pitta. You're going to be fiery. In the summer in South Florida, you're going to get overheated. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to get angry. Like you're going to be like a volcano ready to erupt often. So let me show you how to adjust your circadian clock to summer. Let me show you how to adjust your food, your diet, the drinks that you do. Everything in your life can customize to season. And then that's where you can have health optimization. So it comes back to what you just said, which is let's take out some things in the seasons where our elemental forces kind of get imbalanced. And that's how we're going to feel our absolute best. And that's not a conversation happening right now. Most times when we talk about modern day longevity, biohacking, and health optimization, it's like all of you are deficient in D, B, iron.
Right.
Let's just supplement and win. And I'm like, yeah. And can we talk about the lifestyle that we're not living by? That's the root cause of the issue itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the mindset.
So I have my next question, because I have so many things I want to ask you. The next thing I do want to ask you is, you're a mom.
Yeah.
You're a business owner. You're a wife. You run a household. You're an Ayurveda practitioner. You actually have some health coaching that you do. You run a podcast. You ran a TV show. How in the literal hell do you have time to pay attention to what kind of eggs you're buying? Because one of the struggles that I have, and I think a lot of people do, is, I mean, I literally, while we're sitting here talking, I've got a copper bottle next to me. No, it's not a good job. It's probably a halfway job, because I poured the water that's in it out of a plastic bottle.
Okay.
But I'm cognizant of this, and I get overwhelmed.
Sure.
Because I literally feel like I'm dancing through a minefield.
Yes.
Trying to control my health on the regular. And here's the deal, like, that's from a person who I think has a pretty good handle on this type of stuff anyways. And I'm like, sure, I've got my aura ring, and I've got my Leela pendant, I've got my copper bottle, and it's like, and I drank my Monster energy drink on my way here.
Sure.
Like, I say I live in this world of dissonance sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I just, you can't win at everything, right? Like, sure, I've got my Aries EMF blocking thing on my iPad, and it's on my phone, and I've got one on my keychain, and it's like, and I live in a high-rise building where there's 40 floors of Wi-Fi signals being blasted at me on a regular basis. Like, there's such this dissonance, and I think people who get in, it's like taking that red pill and coming out of the matrix. And yet once you get out of the matrix, you're just like,
my God.
Like,
yeah.
Like, all of a sudden I walk into a 7-Eleven and I'm like,
why is this a poison store?
Right. Literally. It's like the entire store is just toxins. But I'm going to be honest with you and tell you, there are times that I'm like, who cares? Like, I'm just going to eat Taco Bell tonight.
Yep.
And I'm just going to I'm going to take the bullet, and it's going to happen. And I'm going to eat that French fry.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to work out as hard as I know I should.
Yeah.
And my 6-pack abs are not going to shine through this summer.
Yep.
And Ayurveda is about balance.
Yeah, it is.
And that feels like the most out of balance thing for me sometimes, because I don't know how to balance it all. Like,
sure.
What do you tell people? Like, you have to deal with this on the regular. I mean, you probably struggle with it yourself, to be honest.
I do. I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, you're outlining the biggest struggle. Well, you're outlining the biggest struggle I have. Like, I know better, and I know what's best. And so I just wish it was easy to live a life where everything was in flow and everything was peaceful. And I wanted to wake up early to meditate, like I talk about all the time. And I wish when I traveled, I wasn't drinking out of plastic water bottles all day long. It triggers me so much. I just came back from a 2-week trip abroad, and everything, they were putting sugar in the ramen. All the noodles had gluten. You have to drink out of plastic water bottles when you travel. You're on the road, unless you're going to be really anal and carry a water filter.
We've got a water cooler at my office, and it's like, and sure, I can go fill my copper bottle, but I'm filling it out of a plastic container.
Correct.
Like,
it's not glass.
What is it? The 10-gallon plastic things from Zephyr Hills or whoever it is. And it's like, sure, but it's been transported through plastic all the time, right? And then everybody's telling me that I've got a plastic spoons full of plastic in my brain.
Yep.
And you know what? When I work out, I chew gum.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh, well, chewing gum releases 30 pieces of microplastic. And I'm like,
I'm
legit. Like, I'm stuck.
So I think in Ayurveda, it's interesting. In Ayurveda, what we say is, hold on one sec. Can I take a second?
Yeah, please. Because the truth of the matter is like, as you're drinking out of at least a
Glass.
glass bottle, which
Yeah.
I've had several of those and I shattered them all.
Me too.
It's terrible. Like I'm constantly cleaning up glass, which is why I've moved to copper recently.
Smart.
But I think that this frustration is legitimate
Yeah.
for most people. The more you know, the more frustrating it is.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I would have loved to have gotten it this morning and had steak and eggs, but I didn't.
Sure.
Because, I mean, you didn't want steak and eggs, but
Well, I had my eggs and I had goat cheese because that's non-dairy, but still yummy and fattening and does the good job of meat. Here's the way I look at it. Ayurveda teaches us it's a dance. It's a rhythm. And so I'm very much a believer in if you build a rhythm for your life, if you build it in moderation, you use the word moderation, and if you accept that there will always be some negative stuff that goes in the body. In modern day times, it's going to be more than ever. So I do think we have to have more of a vigilance than we've ever had to have around our health because the inputs coming at us are far worse than they were in ancient times. In ancient times, they weren't eating a credit card's worth of plastic per week or per month. They didn't have that problem. I'm sure they had all their other problems that they didn't know about. Maybe there was...
Yeah, I've never gotten attacked by a lion.
There you go. So I really look at it as what is your ebb and flow balance and where do you build resilience by putting in so much good? It's almost like the investment into the pot of so much good habits will completely build the stress resilience in the system to allow for that 20% of give. And we have to learn to not stress on the 20%. That's the hard part. I'm abroad and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to undo all this damage when I got back. And the maturity there is I got back and I said, you know what? You know how to build a rhythm. Lift, walk, circadian rhythm, walks in nature, supplement heavily, move on. Don't get attached to the punishment of travel. Because a lot of us in this modern day time in the health and wellness world are traveling like crazy.
Always on it though.
Right. And so to me, every time I'm like, this plane, this airport, this fumes, like
So
it all can add up.
I went and bought underwear from Leela Quantum because they actually have quantum infused. It's like EMF blocking underwear. And it's funny because like I call them my travel underwear. Because like I always wear them when I'm on an airplane.
I have been thinking about an airplane plan and I'm trying not to make myself so high maintenance.
But I feel so paranoid.
Because I'm already pretty high maintenance about my supplements, my tea. Like I have a wellness package I plan for myself for travel before I pack clothes.
So Philip, if you're watching this, you'll know that I'm going to wear Leela underpants tomorrow while I'm on an airplane.
Yeah, but I do think Ayurveda gives us a lot of tools. It's saying always address your gut, always address your sleep. The things you have under control, do. And then lovingly know there's a gift because you built in that gift.
So I was a guest on somebody else's podcast yesterday, and I was asked, like, how do you what do you do to get into this type of rhythm? Because the conversation was all about discipline.
Sure.
And, I say that I'm a person who discipline doesn't get me very far.
Okay.
Because while I'm a disciplined person, what I've learned about myself is that I think like most people, I'm super hyper vigilant about something until I'm not.
Sure.
And then once the wheels fall off, like I'm done.
Right.
And what I told him was that one of the ways that I try to circumvent that is I look for ways that I can actually put a reward system into the things that I don't like.
Yeah.
And one of the examples I gave is that I'm a daily gym goer.
Sure.
But I'm a daily gym goer, but I go to a HIIT gym, which is kind of like a CrossFit and stuff for someone who doesn't really know that. But group fitness is interesting to me, and I enjoy it because I'm a social being. And like I will go, and I was commenting that over the weekend I was out in Los Angeles, but I'll never go to a hotel gym. Like I'll go find an F45 somewhere and pay the $30 to go to the fitness class,
sure,
as opposed to working out in a hotel gym, because there's a reward built in that I get community during something that I wouldn't want to do by myself. And it makes me go do the thing that I otherwise wouldn't do. And I find myself trying to build those types of things in my life. Like I don't keep sweets around my house because if I do, I'll eat them.
Correct.
Like they will be eaten. So I don't keep it in the house. I don't put it in the refrigerator. I deliberately block things out of my life so that I can't fall into that trap.
Sure.
What are some of the things that you do? Because we talk about this 20%.
Yeah.
Right. And I think anybody who gets into this flow, I'm like, okay, well, now I'm using copper bottles. And while I'm talking to you, I'm like, yeah, but I'm getting copper bottles and I'm filling out of a plastic container. Like, well, better than nothing, right?
Copper will remineralize it.
I live in Florida.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always filtering any water that I drink
Me
in
too.
Florida because it's so bad. And then I'm laughing because it all goes through, because I'll take it through my plastic water filter machine.
Sure.
So like, sure, I'm filtering the water through a plastic filtration system and then pouring some of that water into my plastic ice maker, where I'm then scooping it and putting it into a copper drinking vessel, right? I'm like, it's some of it like almost feels like a fool's errand. Right. Because at some point I could debunk everything I do and be like, yeah, well, that's great, but you just did this. And again, it's a dissonance that we live with. But what are some of the habits and rituals, I'll call it, that you've built into your life? Because like I'm telling you, like I keep this out, or I keep the positive attached to a negative because it makes the negative less negative. Like,
For sure.
the Ayurveda specifically, but what are some of the rituals that you build into your life that you try to keep the dissonance at bay a little bit?
Sure. The dissonance I think will always be there, but in Ayurveda, we teach that there's something called dinacharya, the daily self-care rituals that you use to consistently detox the body and help the body have that resilience we're talking about. So the first one is wake up and set an intention first. So touching the ground, touching your forehead and saying thank you, but setting an intention like a word for the day. Mine is usually peace, because like you mentioned, I've got a lot of hats I wear. And if I don't have peace, I cannot execute on all the fronts I'm managing at a given time. So I set that intention, hydrate first, because we're a big fan of peristalsis. System's got to move first thing in the morning. We're obsessed with everyone having their first bowel movement because we're so obsessed with gut health. And then the next thing I do is when I go to brush my teeth, I use a copper tongue scraper. So we're big fans of copper in Ayurveda because even 5,000 years ago, they knew this will remineralize you. It's an antibacterial metal. It'll stay cleaner. So I scrape my tongue 7 to 14 times. And that's oftentimes my first habit. A lot of times I wake up to an alarm and I am already late. I've got to get this kid up, that kid up. Everything has to move at once. So I will use that and remind myself, this is your first habit of many today for self-care. Then I do my oil pulling. Oil pulling is taking 1 to 2 tablespoons of oil. Coconut oil, organic is fine, or any oil you choose, and letting it swish around your mouth for 5 to 20 minutes. That one I can only do if I'm going to take a shower, because I've got a lot of people I'm talking to get everyone out of the house, and I'm leaving voice memos for team by then. But those are 2 habits that are going to clear the oral microbiome, which is going to support gut microbiome. It's going to help gently detox the body. We teach that tongue scraping, just like in reflexology, all your organs of your body are reflected on the bottom of your foot. In Ayurveda, we teach that all the organs are reflected on the tongue.
Oh, interesting.
So you're gently scraping the tongue, but you're not just scraping the tongue. You are detoxing all the organs of your body. You are helping your body release that ama or toxin burden and residue that forms, so that when you go to do a seasonal or annual detox, which many of us do, the body's like, I'm already good. I already handled this. You help me every single day. And then it's also going to help clear any bacterial overgrowth and clear our taste buds so we taste better. And so anytime we help oral microbiome, like I said, we're supporting gut. So that's kind of how I start my morning. Then I start my day. And the only way I can fit in self-care during the day for myself is a cup of tea. And so I took the self-care rituals of Ayurveda and I moved all the rest into the evening, because as a mom, I've got to get them into school and then I've got to get to work, or I usually lift and then go to work. And so my habit I teach is called tea time is me time. And that's why online you probably see, look, 1 million cups of tea posted by me. But it's my moment that I call my mindful moment, where I really anchor in and just take a second. I take a breath. You can't chug tea. Like, I was on my way here and I was like, I've got to finish my tea before I see Mark. And I can't rush that process. It's burning hot, right? So I waited. It got to just perfect. And as I was driving, I got to have my tea. I tune in and I always ask my intuition, what's going on? What do I need to know today? And I have trained my intuition to really answer me. And I would say the biggest gift that Ayurveda gives us is the ability for our own inner intelligence and intuition to give us the answers that we need. And so a lot of times what I'm asking with that cup of tea is, what am I not aware of that I need to be aware of? And my body will tell me, you haven't planned for yourself to eat today. You need to say no to those people. Just say no. Because a lot of times I'm saying yes to everyone and everything at once. But my inner intelligence already knows that deal I'm thinking about, that person, that relationship, whatever it is a no. And so I use tea time to really calibrate the day, the week, and I take that moment to handle things I need to. And then by evening, I shift into the Ayurvedic self-care rituals again. So we teach dry brushing. We teach something called LPM massage, a full body massage with oil to really ground our energy. We talk about journaling and really releasing the day and only feeding our brain the seeds we need before a great night's sleep. Because when we sleep, for example, if you're watching the news or violence right before bed, that's what your brain is going to chew on all night long. And so Ayurveda always said, you want your brain to chew on beautiful spiritual things and then wake up with answers. And so a lot of my practice is at 9 o'clock, I have a hard line and I shift into deep sleep tea, self-hygiene sleep rituals, a hot shower, journaling, really winding up the day. Because sleep, according to Ayurveda, 10 to 2 on the sleep clock, circadian clock, is when we're going to clear the lymphatic system. And so since we're so obsessed with detoxing, if you're not sleeping 10 to 2, you're not clearing that waste in your brain. Up to 3 pounds of waste could accumulate in your brain overnight, according to Ayurveda, and the circadian clock in your lymphatic system, and your lymphatic system not clear. So to me, those are like my anchor points in my day. And then if I can do more, I'll do more. But typically, that's all I will get to in a day.
That's interesting. Some of those rituals, like I wish I were so disciplined in those things because sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not.
Right.
And I travel so much that, some of that, I mean, you're making me think like I just, as you're talking, like I've got 2 copper tongue scrapers at my house.
Sure.
And I do that, not as ritualed as you are about it. But I don't have one in my travel bag. And I'm like,
right.
Well, why don't I stick one in my travel bag? Like I don't do that when I travel. Like, well, that's an easy fix.
Sure.
And I think I say that nobody wins the war, but there's a lot of battles that we can certainly win along the way. Sure. And one of those is you want to pivot just for a probably the remainder of our time, to be honest with you. But I want to go one place first. You mentioned being Hindu, Buddhist.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian. I mentioned earlier about the kosher and halal killing of animals. Like obviously that's a lot of faiths that are all brought in here.
Sure.
And Ayurveda it's not a religion.
No.
This is just a way of life that's practiced by cultures. What is the spiritual implication of Ayurveda? Because it's not specifically religious, but comes from more of a Hindu tradition.
Correct.
But so much, I'm fascinated because so much of what's brought up in Ayurveda is also Jewish.
Yes.
It's also Muslim, and it's also Christian, and it's also Buddhist. Like there's so, because ancient wisdom was ancient wisdom. And I think, this is opinion only, that particularly in modern times, I think we associate these types of behaviors and cultural things and call them religious.
Right.
But in fact, the religious and spiritual side of things was dissociated with the cultural practices of things.
Sure.
And we've, in an effort to allow diversity into a spiritual world, we kind of threw out all of these other things as well.
Right.
Like, okay, well, I'm not Jewish, but that doesn't mean I can't respect and incorporate Jewish culture into my practices. And I'm not Hindu, but it doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of health benefits to things that are practiced in the Hindu tradition. Like, and I hear people like, oh, yoga's bad. Sure, I got it. Like, I get that yoga has a Hindu upbringing, but I don't believe that practicing yoga and understanding the form of the human body and how it best moves is sacrilege.
Sure.
If I'm not Hindu. Like, I'm just curious how you see that this is not a religion. This is a lifestyle, and there's adaptations from all cultures that we would be better to adapt. Like, I'm not Finnish, but I enjoy a good sauna.
Sure. Of course. Yeah, it's interesting. I grew up in a Hindu family, and luckily my parents took me to Vedantic school, which is really the study of Buddhist philosophy and Hinduism together in a way. It's like the Buddhist aspect of Hinduism. So very letting go of the rituals of, sitting there and putting food and flour in front of a god, and instead understanding the philosophy. So because of that, when I look at Ayurveda and I look at a lot of the health systems we're talking about nowadays, I really do think of them as our path to our spiritual self. And I think we don't talk about that as much because it doesn't seem like anyone cares to hear it. I don't even mention the spirituality of Ayurveda, but I have a teacher who's a priestess. And when I was sitting with her in session, she's like, can you explain to us the spirituality of Ayurveda? Is it there? And I said, it's the whole point. The whole point of your Ayurvedic journey, your Ayurvedic lifestyle, your Ayurvedic day is to bring yourself into alignment, your elemental forces into alignment. Why do I focus so much on all this health stuff? When you go to yoga and you have Shavasana at the end, what is the point of our Shavasana? Laying there in total stillness. It's the messages that come in. It's God's voice or whoever you believe in coming in and giving you answers and giving you support and showing you that you are one. And so in Ayurveda also, we're saying, let's bring body into alignment, emotions, mental health into alignment. And once you have those, spiritual alignment's easy. And so that's why when I started teaching what I teach in the last couple of years, I called it vibrant health. Because what I was trying to get at is we each have a vibration. And I can tell when my vibration is so alive and so energized and so happy. And when I'm at that point, I can do anything. I feel invincible. And that's usually the Shivani you get to see, because that's how I show up. I'm like, I am ready to change the whole world. Let's do it. And I also know when I'm dysregulated and I'm tired and I haven't done anything right and I'm in my low energy space. And so my dream is actually for everyone to achieve such a high energy state that all we want to do is good for each other. Because when we're in that state, we've kind of cleared the clutter. Clearing that clutter of, oh, I've got to handle this, that, the other, whatever. When I'm in my highest vibration, all I want to do is serve. And I think we have that opportunity now. We're understanding health at a level where we can clear all that low energy out of the way and stay in that vibration state.
I love that you say that, because it's one of the conversations that I have on a regular basis with people. It's like part of the reason why I take such intricate care of my health is because, you know, I always get the quote wrong. I mean, Bobby Kennedy made a comment that it's like a man, he has 100 dreams until he has a health concern, and then he has one.
Yeah.
And for me, I have to take care of my health, because if my stomach is upset or I'm tired or I'm feeling out of balance, low vibration, low energy, I can't show up for anybody else.
Correct.
And in my book, Radical Generosity, like that was actually one of the topics that I discussed, that part of generosity, the fifth element of generosity, is being willing to give to yourself, because you can't give out of an empty cup.
Right.
That me showing up in a healthy state, and I mean not just physical health, but emotional health, spiritual health, like everything about me needs to be in balance, because when I'm out of balance, my focus is on me.
Correct.
And when I'm in balance, my focus is outward, and outward is the way I want to live my life. So Shivani, I want to pivot. Where I really want to end the conversation is in this idea you mentioned earlier about supplementation. You know, in the intro, I'd mentioned turmeric. And then you touched on 2 points earlier when we were talking, and you made a comment about detox, and you made a comment about longevity. And I'd given a lecture about supplementation, and interestingly enough, it actually was to the executive team at Kroger grocery stores, and which was quite interesting, because the topic of the conversation was about how you don't get what you want through food.
Sure.
And it's like, that's really weird to give to an executive team at a grocery store.
Yeah.
But really talking about, like, you don't necessarily get what you need through this. And part of what I had unpacked was that I'm a heavy supplement guy.
Me too.
I'm always doing lots of supplements. And in that, what I'll say is that I categorize my supplements, because people say, like, well, what do you take? I'm like, well, it depends on for what.
Right.
I'm like, and I've kind of taken my supplements and put them into 4 categories. And my first one is nutritional depletion.
Sure.
That is, what are the vitamins and minerals that I don't believe I'm getting through my diet? And part of that could be because I just don't eat right.
Sure. No one eats perfect.
And nobody eats perfect.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just don't feel like eating what I should eat tonight. And I know there's going to be a gap.
Yeah.
So I supplement for that every day.
Sure.
Because even if I do eat right, that's okay. A little bit of extra vitamin isn't going to hurt anybody.
Sure.
One category I keep is one for what I call longevity.
Cool.
And that includes such things as like AKG and spermidine and those types of things that are there, resveratrol, that are supplements that are specifically focused on core longevity elements.
Right.
One is I have a supplement category for detoxification.
Nice.
And I'll use like C60 oils.
Nice.
I'll use like axanthin, and these types of things that are literally just detox pushes.
Sure.
And the fourth one that I use is actually one I use for like optimization, was what I call it. And that's the one I probably play with most. But that's where I'm doing things that are mental stimulants. That's where I'm doing nitric oxide. That's where I'm doing different types of things, maybe a different form of BCAAs, or I'm doing some other stack for working out differently. And I'm also big in the peptides and all this other kind of crazy stuff. So my house looks like a damn pharmacy. But
Sure.
But the reality is, like, I categorize all of this stuff in supplementation because I'm a freak.
Sure.
One of the things I don't use on the regular, and I'm ashamed to say this, is I actually, out of all of the things you heard me say, I don't understand the benefit of turmeric the way I probably should, because, and I'm again, you've been a friend of mine for years.
It's okay.
And
I don't lecture my friends.
And I've not adopted this, and I don't know why.
Sure.
I'll take the most obscure things, but when I just have never brought turmeric into that family. And I'm like, obviously it's something that I need to do, because you would swear by it.
I'd put it as one and only.
That you've committed your life to it. Like, your PhD is in turmeric, which I think is hilarious to me, by the way. But it's like a PhD in turmeric. I'm like, is that a study? And I love it. And I know your story on it. And I love how deep you are in this. But you're an entrepreneur, and you run a company called Fusionary Formulas. And really, Fusionary is, well, you have things other than turmeric.
Sure.
Turmeric is your anchor. Yeah. This is your passion. This is your life. Why are you so passionate? Like, I've got 70 different supplements that are in my arrow quiver, and you're like, turmeric.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what is so beneficial about this? And if so, why isn't everybody using this?
Sure. It's such a beautiful question. You know, when I was doing my herbology class and the teacher went through all the Ayurvedic spices, there's fennel, there's fenugreek, ginger, we have cumin seeds, we have a lot of spices people have never heard of in the West. We have quite a plethora of herbs. When they got to turmeric, the benefits were so profound. I thought, if you could actually do all that in one plant, why are we not using that across the board in Western medicine? In Western medicine, when we go to the doctor, they always say you have something itis. Anything ending in itis means inflammation. And turmeric is such a powerful anti-inflammatory. So when I did my PhD, which took forever, because back then there were 10,000 scientific studies on curcumin and turmeric, and now there's 17,000 scientific studies. What I loved was turmeric's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, antiparasitic. It gets rid of what we don't need in the gut, but keeps the good. That's a pretty big deal. It's antioxidant in the sense that it goes and reverses the things that are causing oxidation in the first place. And we know when we're aging, we're going to rust, we're going to slow down. So the fact that it'll reverse those processes is a really big deal. It increases nitric oxide in the system. It impacts our sirtuins, our AMPK pathways. I did a whole talk at A4M Vegas on longevity with curcumin. There's a lot of science there as well. And so the fact that it's like your Swiss Army knife and can do that much in the body naturally without the negative side effects, to me is very powerful. And then from an anti-inflammatory pathway standpoint, it's affecting NF-kappa B, TNF-alpha, all the interleukins, COX-2, like the fact that it's impacting 30 different pathways so powerfully, to me is really great, because most of us are running around inflamed.
Yeah.
And that chronic low-grade persistent inflammation is damaging all of us. And my Hay House book next year coming out is all about this, how that inflammation is at the root of so many of our issues, but we're so confused about how to address it. And here Mother Nature created this incredible plant that just does the job.
Well, so let me unpack this for just, for someone who may not completely understand the concept of oxidation and inflammation.
Sure.
And that is, inflammation is a cell's response to what I'll say negativity, right? Something is going to damage it. And the inflammation is the cell's way of protecting itself, really.
Right.
Which means inflammation isn't the problem. Inflammation is the body's response to a problem that we haven't removed.
Right.
And usually that trigger, that cause is oxidation.
Correct.
And oxidative damage to the body is caused, the fact that we're sitting here in a climate controlled building is causing oxidation, right? And I always use the example that oxidation is literally the opposite of longevity.
Right.
That as oxidative damage takes place, longevity starts to fail, and your body knows how to deal with so much oxidation in a day.
Right.
But when the oxidative burden becomes so much and the body just can't fight that much over the course of a day, suddenly that's when they hit that point.
Yeah.
And I'll say that everybody, I think at some point hits the point that you suddenly just age.
Yeah.
Like everybody stays young until they don't. Like, if that makes sense, like you just meet somebody that you're like, wow, what happened to you?
Right.
And it's like, and just all of a sudden they got old.
Yeah.
And there's all these predictions now that it happens at this age.
45,
Yeah. Like whatever. And it's like, but that just happens one day. And I'm like, no, that doesn't just happen one day. It happens because tipping points happen when you're not helping the other side fight harder.
Correct.
And the more we can stave off this oxidative stress or reverse it or detox more,
Yep.
the longevity being keeps winning, right? Like literally death is a matter of just too much built up oxidative stress.
Yeah. Yeah. The body just ages and depletes. And that's what Ayurveda is saying is we can reach into the super herbs, super spices kit, and you have so many beautiful tools from Mother Nature. And what I found interesting was out of the entire turmeric plant, only 3% of it is the curcuminoid. Those curcuminoids are the piece that's doing the heavy lifting. And out of those curcuminoids, curcumin is the most effective at reducing inflammation. So I sat there after my PhD and I was like, okay, this is great. Whose turmeric am I going to recommend? Because people were by then asking me. They're like, my knee hurts. Yeah, but people like, my knee hurts. And I was like, you should take turmeric for that. They're like, my throat hurts. You should take turmeric for that. And my family looked at me and they're like, well, if you don't have a turmeric you trust, you should just make your own. And I said, that's insane. Like, I've never dreamt of building a supplement company. They were like, well, you've done your PhD on it. You're obviously very passionate about it. And I'm surrounded by a family of all Western medicine doctors. And so they were kind of goading me. And they're like, and you think it can stand up to what we use, which can't possibly be true, that you think a plant is effective enough to use in our toolkits. And I was like, irrefutably it is. And so that's when I went out and created Fusionary. I wanted to prove without a doubt my point. And so I went to my factory and I said, hey, I want to create this thing. And they said, you are doing this backwards. You create supplements for profit. Like, this is a highly profitable business and you should create it that way. And I said, that's not what I'm doing. I want to prove to all of Western medicine that every time they say something hurts in us, we can just use turmeric, which is a natural Ayurvedic solution. And so that's how I built Fusionary. 10 years ago, I built it. And COVID, the pandemic, was a good tipping point because around that time, mindsets shifted.
Yeah.
Doctors became really open to the fact that their existing toolkit wasn't enough all of a sudden for the solutions that we needed.
Well, and consumers became very understanding of the fact that their health was a matter of personal responsibility.
Correct. And so at that time, I was sitting there and everyone called me. They're like, we know you said turmeric helps immune. Will you help us? I'm like, of course. I'm happy to guide you. Obviously, the supplement exists. And so it's my mission to share that turmeric should be in all of our supplement kits. When I travel, I have like a tiny stack for travel compared to the whole thing that I want to carry like you. And it's turmeric, vitamin D, and a probiotic. With those three, I'm covered for 90% of what could come at me in my life because turmeric alone will do the majority of the job.
Sometimes I have a separate carry-on just for my health stack, and then I
like to.
I have my katsu bands and everything else.
I want to.
I'm a freak. Oh no, I'll have katsu bands and matcha and everything else that's all in my carry-on. I'm like, people are gonna think I'm a freak if they ever look inside my luggage.
Totally.
So fusionary formulas, like obviously I'm going to start using this, but turmeric itself, anti-inflammatory. It brings down the inflammation, but as we just said, inflammation itself is a response.
Sure.
What is it doing that's bringing down the inflammation? Because is it negating the body's response, or is it actually intercepting a stimulus?
You know what I find with turmeric is because it's plant medicine and because we're taking that curcumin at the correct proportion out of the plant, it has its own intelligence. And it's adaptogenic.
Interesting.
So a lot of things out of Ayurveda are adaptogenic. And adaptogenic means if you took ashwagandha, for example, when you're stressed and anxious, it brings you down. If you're having the blues, it lifts you up. It intelligently goes where it needs to go. That's why I built my second formula, Inflammation Relief, because it had all the synergistic herbs to help address inflammation and joint pain in the system. Joint pain is a big issue, and people are going to be taking NSAIDs daily, chronically for years, which has a negative impact.
Well, and joint pain is usually just a function of toxicity.
Correct.
Because toxicity doesn't naturally flow from the joint because the joint doesn't actually have blood flow.
Right.
So there's nothing to take the toxins out of the joints if you don't do that.
Right.
Whether through brushing, whether through supplementation or whatever.
Lymphatic flow, all these different practices we have, bouncing, walking, moving. We're so sedentary as a society.
Yeah.
And so turmeric does go in there, and it is anti-inflammatory in the sense it's going to reverse all that negative inflammation in the system, all that excess inflammation in the system. And like you said, because it's addressing the oxidation, it's going in there and really healing what needs to be healed. So the body stops sending that excess inflammatory response. A lot of times we've hurt an elbow and the body doesn't stop its inflammatory response after it's done healing. The body's dysregulated. Like you said, we have a toxic burden in the system. And so turmeric knows how to get in there. I have found it fascinating because over 10 years, I've heard all the client stories coming in. And they'll say, well, my back hurt. And you totally fix that. I can travel, I can move, I can play golf, all those things. But then I had gingivitis and nothing was working for that. Or I had allergies. I was sneezing like 20 times every time I started sneezing. That went away. And so to me, it's been an interesting science experiment to see when you put something in the body that's adaptogenic, how does it go into all the places? Because for me, it addresses the big issues, then the medium issues, and then the small issues. And so that's the beauty of what I've kind of seen over the last decade with it.
That's really cool. And then I love that you just pointed out that it's an adaptogenic, because I think the adaptogenic word is getting used a lot lately, but specifically as it relates to like mushrooms. But this is an adaptogenic too, which literally just means that it's an intelligent molecule that's able to move to where it needs to be. It adapts to whatever's going on. So the way that it affects your body may not be the same way it affects mine.
Correct.
Because we have different ailments. We have different toxins.
Yeah. I was sitting in Japan just last week and I started to have a fever. And I was like, oh, that's not good. What happened? What could that be? I'll just take turmeric for that. And I did. I took 2 and I was fine. Like 6 hours later, 8 hours later, I was like, oh, no problem. So I use it like that. For me, it's a very powerful immune boost because I've always been kind of on that borderline of autoimmune, leaky gut. So I need something that I can use as a fast defense.
Well, and Shivani, one of the things that you bring up, and it crosses my mind here as we're wrapping up, but that we're so accustomed in Western medicine that, we have this specific problem and we have this specific solution. And as you know, I'm a marketing guy. So when we're talking to how do we market products, I always talk to my clients and tell them, what is the specific issue that your product addresses,
right,
and how do you specifically resolve it? Because that's what makes a credit card come out of a wallet, right? But I would arguably say that that's not the way the human body works. That's the way maybe our Western brains work. If the human body is just like, let me do what I do. Can you just help clear everything else out of the way? Like we started off talking about that Josh Axe quote.
Yeah.
The idea that it's not about adding something, it's about taking something away. And if we put in the right ingredients, the body knows what to do. Your body knows how to reduce a fever.
Correct.
Your fevers aren't a bad thing. Fever is your body's way of actually fighting an infection of some sort. Like that's a response. That's not a symptom.
Right.
And if we support, whether through turmeric, curcumin, or any number of supplementations, antioxidants,
Sure,
if we just get out of the way, the body does what it does.
true.
And you're intelligent creations. And in that, I believe that we can restore ourselves back to natural health, because we call it natural health because it's natural, right? It's not that the ingredients are natural. It's that health is native to who we are. Like our bodies want to survive and know how.
Absolutely.
Shivani, if people were trying to get a hold of you or wanting to try some turmeric products or any of the products and fusionary formulas, where would they do so?
So my website is my name, ShivaniGupta.com. They can find all about Ayurveda there. And then the supplement line is fusionaryformulas.com. So it's FUSIONARY formulas.com.
And all of that will be down in the show notes where you can find the links to find Dr. Shivani Gupta as well as fusionaryformulas.com. We'll put in a coupon code for somebody in there if they want to try the product and give it a whirl. That way they can do that. My recommendation for people, anytime that they're taking a supplement, that's what I do,
Sure.
is I subscribe.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason to take a product and then take it for 30 days. And I think the reason most people don't subscribe, Shivani, is they end up missing a day here, missing 2 days there. And then all of a sudden they've got 2 extra bottles sitting somewhere on a counter. And then they're like, oh, it's a waste. And then they want to cancel. And it's like, my thing is subscribe so that I never run out.
Absolutely.
And then, periodically I'll skip a month because I missed a couple days here and there, right? And like I just did it the other day. I went through my Amazon account and I was like, nope, skip that month, skip that month, skip that month.
It's funny.
Because as I was cleaning my kitchen, I realized I had lots of extras sitting around that I had missed days here and missed days there. And it's like, but I always recommend to people subscribe so you don't run out, because you don't want to find out what you feel like without it.
True. Yeah. That's actually when I get the most phone calls. People will call and say, I ran out for a week. Now I know what you were doing for me.
Yes.
And I had no awareness before that. And wow, I'm in pain. And I'm like, okay, at least you know it was working now.
Yeah, those are the best testimonials, right? The people that did without for a minute and then realized how good it was. Guys, I absolutely recommend that you check out Fusionary Formulas. Shivani Gupta has been a long-term friend of mine, and I trust anything she says. Clearly, I've not bought her product until now, and now I feel like a bit of a heel for saying that. Like, it's not for my lack of supplements. It's just my lack of knowledge or discipline or anything else. So now that we know, knowing's half the battle, as G.I. Joe would tell us, right?
True. So true.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in to Performance Driven Living, and we'll see you next time.